and here we are. We're actually doing it, episode 1. So this is like the most awkward it'll get, and then it'll eventually get better.
It's exciting, though. It's exciting. Yeah, it's good to.
Did you think after all the podcasts you've done in the last, since last ATA show, how many do you think you've done? And do you think you'd ever end up to have your own podcast?
Not really, but it was definitely in the works, and I know talking with the old man since that time, and we've kind of been trying to hold out because we knew we had a bunch of information and some stuff that would be well recepted from podcast listeners, and we were just kind of figuring out like the best avenue to get it out, and I think we're just kind of amped to finally be there.
So for people that are just tuning in, because the audio series is on the Working Class Bowhunter platform, obviously the video series, one with Custom Gear YouTube. Let's talk about kind of what we're going to do with this and some ideas we have, and of course we're going to innovate and think of stuff along the way, but of course we're going to talk whitetails. That's number one, right? That's what you guys are known for, and it's what we're known for at Working Class. So we're basically colliding and developing a platform that's going to allow us to get some good information out and people to get some insight on who you guys are, guests eventually, and everything else. Well,
what I'd like to see is, so for decades I've been doing shows, talking with hunters in the field and out, and a lot of these shows, they've always had tons of questions in your one-on-one there. Yeah. Now maybe we can take some of those questions and then literally, thousands of guys can get the answers to the same thing instead of, spread that knowledge out a little bit.
Yeah, too. And then also what I'm excited about with this whole podcast series, especially Andrae with you, is you kind of, in my eyes, you have like this aura, this like mystique to you that, because you're not
really.
It's like a purple aura. You're like Prince.
Okay.
But it's. I think people are going to be interested to see like how you are, on a personable level, and really get some of your stories and screw ups and just different things from your perspective is really interesting. And likewise with Cody.
Who told you I screw up?
Cody might have said a few things.
Very far and few between, brother.
Yeah. Cody said a few things.
Okay.
Maybe Byron might have told me a story or two. Yeah. I don't know. I'll throw him under the bus.
Yeah. All right.
But it's
Payback's
that stuff will be interesting. To get into. And come on, Cody, help me out. This is your show, man.
He knows not to go there, so. But
I'm just gonna dial this one back a little bit.
It's like episode 1. All right, guys, that's it.
Yeah.
We're closing her out there,
and we're done.
So I'm excited to see like what's going to happen with all this and where it snowballs into, and getting into even just like a buck profile podcast on some of the deer that you've killed and some of the deer that you've killed, Cody.
Yeah, I think all in general, just everything whitetails. Whitetail stories, tactics, tips. It's when it comes down to it, it's what we're all passionate about. And, it's a good platform to kind of get out there.
Yeah. I know that it's kind of funny because we got to talking about getting this going, and it's funny the way it worked out because we hadn't really talked about it much, but the more that we got to know each other, like, oh, that's a good idea. We should kind of join forces there because you guys are, especially Cody lately, you're just a popular item to be a guest on different shows. So I think we're really going to be able to break some things down and get into it.
So eventually you'll have some of our pro staffers, longtime guys that have been in the industry, supporting us for years. A nice storyline in there is how they've handled that addiction in their lives. And you'll see a lot of these guys that are, they've chose, occupations and business type deals where they could, in the fall, they can get off and go chase whitetail. So
yeah, for sure.
It'd be nice to see some of those stories too on there this year.
I'm excited to do that. Plus, people are going to get to learn about the whole history because, Andrae Dacquisto, Cody Dacquisto, Kurt Geyer. I don't think we actually did that. That makes more sense to actually introduce ourselves. But you are the lone wolf, and I think in current times right now, in the mobile hunting game, on social media, and the podcast game, all of that, I think people have a tendency to get it twisted on that. Yeah, you are the OG of all this. You are the original since 1984. Like, you are Lone Wolf. If you want to go in, since we're on episode 1, if you want to dive into that, like where it started, and just snowball us from there.
Well, what's funny is that I started this business to be mobile. I was more of a mobile type hunter. Yeah. Everybody's pounding up wood stands, permanent, and I'm the big scouter, so I'd like to get out. And it's funny how that started back in the early 80s, and now it's come like full circle. So I was fighting the big we call them tree lounge type stands, and the guys would go in and set up a spot and park there all year. We were running circles around those guys. Now it's like everybody's mobile. So it's awesome to see that this new generation's really taking off and getting serious about the sport.
Yeah, yeah. It's a lot of people have known about that type of hunting, I think, but I feel because of social media, and Cody, we've talked about this on some past podcasts, it's really gained popularity of being the most effective way of hunting, consistently kill big whitetails.
Yep. It's funny how it's somehow just started getting recognition because guys like Dad have been doing it for so long, and the company got to where it's at on that premise alone. Mobile, I mean, lone wolf portable tree stands, you know. So I think it'd be, you know, and I'm sure people have heard me talk about this as far as, you know, talking about you starting the company and back then, but maybe you can take them through a quick run through and just, I mean, what sparked that passion? Obviously, you were passionate about hunting back then, but I mean, I know I've heard these stories time and time and again, and the grind, and you know, making the first molds and all that stuff. Maybe just maybe get into.
Well, a lot of guys don't realize I'm not a real patient hunter, and you know, big buck hunting is a patience game.
Yeah.
And I'm an antsy one. I like to have as much information I can, kind of manipulate a deer and almost have that interaction with it at a certain time and knowing all that. I got a kind of like a power trip. So that's why I can't wait to get down in the morning after a sit and go look for a new spot and look at new sign and see what I've seen and start digging back and poking around. And sometimes you poke a little too far. But it's just how I've always done it, and I've gained a lot of success by that. I learned a lot by seeing that stuff. So,
and I think too, a lot of guys play that. There's that line of, like you said, you can go too aggressive, and then there's definitely not aggressive enough. I think a lot of people from seeing things on TV, you got to sit all day. You got to sit all day. Well, that's not always the medicine for the sickness there. Like sometimes you got to get out and chase one down and be mobile and move around. And but I'd like if you went back and like break down like your first tree stand design, like how you actually if you could just explain what that first one was like to give people some history.
Well, so years ago, I'm running around on the ground with a recurve, chasing deer around, flinging arrows, and I'm just having a ball. I just for some reason I decided to hunt whitetail with a bow. I always hunted small game with the bow, pheasants, squirrels, rabbits.
Yeah.
And then I just decided to go after deer, and I got bit by the bug like you wouldn't believe. I literally would stand in short pines on the ground. I'd have a pine tree cut off on my hat, and I'd be there, and I literally had deer almost come up and start sniffing me right in the deal. So and I used to have my wife now as my girlfriend. She'd literally go out in the field and drive a field toward me, and I'd be shooting that deer on the ground and stuff. So it was pretty barbaric then. And as I hunted and developed it, I started learning that there was tree stands out there. Guys were hunting from elevators. They started climbing trees, just getting up there and getting the branches hunting. And I seen success from ambushing from a higher location with scent control and all that, which wasn't a big deal back then. But so it evolved into almost a hobby. Every year I designed a stand once I started getting into trees. And every year I would change it a little bit. So I'd run a whole season, see a bug in it. It literally was welded in an open position when I started. Carrying that around your back. And then I made hinges to fold down. But it was a really, I'm going to say about a 12-year evolution.
Right.
In climbing. I never even had a hang-on back then. So.
Oh, no shit.
Nope. So it was all climbing stand, mobile. And then when you started getting in other states where there's trees you can't climb, obviously, then I developed a hang-on stand. So now it's like a hang-on and sticks is almost as quick as a climber, and there's no situation you can't get in. So it's the tool, the trade for me now is I very seldom ever use a climber anymore.
Did you ever think while this was happening, like looking back from now, back then, you changed the game?
No,
you did though. You changed the game on how people hunt now. It's easy to be a mobile bow hunter now, which before it was like a lot of people even took a while to like catch on to some of this. Like it's a pain in the ass to move some of those heavy, crappier, cheap stands around, and it's just ridiculous at times. You can't do what you want to do with some of the stand. Like now with your stand designs, you can do what you want to do. So it's really
if you get good with these stands, I mean, there shouldn't even be a second thought. The wind switches on you right in the morning sit. Just tear it down, slide over, reset it up, and you're still in the game. It's where years ago you wouldn't even think of in a day's shot. I'm going to spend a few more hours here and then,
Right.
change up tomorrow or something. And I see something happen, I'll get down and I'll go slide over and I'll set up a new spot that might be 100 yards away,
Yeah,
Just
yeah. So from designing the first stands and getting into that and kind of the evolution of how long from your first stand design to where people were buying them?
Well, you look back too. So I had basically a wood and aluminum stand. Mm-hmm. When I developed that, I actually look back now, and to think that you could even make a living doing that was a ridiculous dream back then. But I just stuck to it. Started developing. The whole industry went to metal stands, and I was sitting there with the best wood and aluminum stand on the market. But the industry changed, so that's when I had the idea from the automobile industry, working with castings, to make a platform. Mm-hmm. And once I hunted out of that one piece, my God, I couldn't believe I couldn't make a peep. Now when it's come to that last couple seconds, having to make a move on a deer, literally under you'd be cringing not to move to get a shot off.
Right.
I'll turn right around and dip down onto a knee and lean over and shoot, and it's just
right.
It was just a joy to be having that equipment, So
it's crazy because we don't. We were spoiled. We don't realize things like that. We weren't around, and we didn't hunt out of shitty tree stands and old just be. It's funny because we talk about that story about you getting your lone wolf at the deer show that I was working at with Dad back in the day, and your old man bought it for you, and it's just cool. But it's definitely neat to look back, and a lot of those original problems.
So you never experienced, like you said. So imagine a tree stand that you're standing in, that even if you didn't move and the wind was blowing and moving the stand, it would be creaking. Just imagine trying to go after a big whitetail with that one.
Yeah, it's unacceptable.
Yeah. Well,
it was.
That's right there, man. I mean,
insane.
Necessity is the mother of invention, and like you needed something that wasn't a piece of shit. So I mean,
for lack of a better term, I mean that's what it is. Especially to be consistent on big bucks. Anyone can kill one big buck, but to be consistent at killing big bucks like that is.
Here's the other
different.
thing, during the rut's one thing. There's a lot of shit going on, a lot of commotion.
Yeah.
Get in there in October, go climb up a whitetail's ass, get right up on top of him where he's bedded. You watch a 160s get up out of his bed within 50 yards of you.
Yeah.
Your equipment's pretty stealthy and you're in the game.
See, and mentioning that's something we're going to get into. That's there's going to be full episodes with this Dacquisto series podcast that cover that topic alone. So that's just a little sneak peek, but it's crazy to think before you came along and saw the need for your own benefit that there wasn't anything else anywhere, you know what I mean, remotely close to it.
I'll give a shout out to the Baker tree stand, because really that's what my first climber was mimicked after. He probably was the first one that had a portable stand to move around, but it was a death trap, a noisy. Matter of fact, that was one that
Big shout out.
I could not even climb a tree 5 feet with that thing, and it just felt like it was on a bust loose. So I said,
really?
no way. I'm gonna redesign. I'm gonna do my deal, and then I made a quality, a safe hunting system. So
it's incredible, man. You changed the game. You did. And Cody, you were nursed into it off the old.
Yeah, I did.
Look where it's going now. Okay, so I changed the game. Now he's taking it to another level.
Yep.
I mean, for this new stand, this guy was on my ass. That couple 3 ounces that I added on that stand? He wanted to murder me for doing that. And I said, dude, I got a track record in designing this stuff. I said, we need that extra 3 ounces in the right spot.
Yeah.
So I just, I had to go that route, and maybe some metals and some things will be around a little bit later. We might take it to even another level.
More so, too. I mean, and the weight is one thing, but everything we got on this stand is
the compactness.
A weight aside, what you're doing with this is just completely next level, and nothing on the market right now can even hold a candle to it. The way it's packed, the way it compacts down, everything, portability, lightweight, everything. We just shot a video today. I think I went on like an hour and a half hike. Had 50 pounds on the back of that thing. I mean, just I mean, it's just man. So but it's just it's the fact that like this. It's more than just a weight weight issue. So you're starting with a design and a stand that is the best and has always been the best. Well, how do you make it better? So, and you talk about Dad coming up in a time in where I mean he didn't have anything, and it was like
Yeah.
oh man, I got to make something to hunt out of this. Like I was like you said, I kind of came up with nothing, knowing nothing but that. But
So look at the climbing stick evolution,
Right,
So
right.
where I'm shimming up a tree, dragging a stand up and setting in. Then I went to screwing steps, trying to be the least amount of weight, the most effective speed. And it was like it was taking too long to get these screwing steps in. And then I came up with that idea of that stick. And once I got that little lightweight stick deal, I mean, I could get up a tree and slap that thing on. It was light enough.
well,
and,
that's the craziest thing too. A lot of people don't even realize that. I mean, Lone Wolf was the first ever climbing stick. Like
Right.
that, like the climbing
yeah, there
stick
was
in
nothing
general.
out there to look. Where Baker, there was another stand to look at with tree stands, but with sticks in that.
Yeah, like
This
so.
is a whole,
Yeah.
whole new game,
It's just weird. It's
sure.
weird to comprehend seeing an industry full of climbing sticks, or what we call climbing sticks,
Yeah.
or climbing aids, or ladders, or whatever you want to call them. And that was the first one. I mean, it's
Right,
just,
yeah.
it's,
Well,
it's
it's
crazy.
too, like, I think where you were going before is you grew up with the Lone Wolf stand. So for you, that was like,
It was the norm.
Yeah, it was
like
the
all
norm.
like I never had to experience hunting out of a piece of or a stand that made noise on its own. Like it was
Yeah.
always, my hunting experience. I went right into and coming up in a house like this, just
Right.
full of deer. Like my initial thing was, I wasn't chasing stuff around on the ground with recurves. I was hunting from elevated positions,
Right.
being mobile from the get-go, from watching him and,
Right.
and
Which is
trying to kill big deer.
to the brand's benefit on that, because your brain is bouncing off, like, that's your point A there already.
Yeah.
Whereas your point A was way different. So your mindset on trying to innovate things into an already incredible platform is taking that to the next step. And then with your experience with engineering all these and designing them and testing them, you guys together, really, that's like a really good recipe for what is now this new
Some,
generation.
new innovation. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see where everything goes down the road. 10 years from now, it's just going to be insane.
See, and I love tinkering around with this stuff because that's what I did. I hunted and then messed with my equipment. I didn't have any other hobbies, so for the rest of the year it was just work.
Yeah.
And then redesign the stand or make it better. So
Right.
I'm right back into where I was years ago.
Yeah.
I can hunt, and then now we're working on new products and
Yeah.
advancing this. It's like a trail back in the time warp there. You're
It's cool.
back to where we were at.
I was here, so we're recording this podcast at Andrae's house, at your house. And a couple weeks ago, I was over here, and I could just tell. And I haven't known you for a long time, but I could tell, like, dude, that guy's got a fire lit under his ass right now. Like, you're ready to tip some shit over.
Yeah.
And it's cool because in hearing you talk about, I talk about somebody like, oh yeah, I had a stand like that back in the day. This is why it didn't work, or this is what we did different, and this is why I didn't do this. Like, from talking to you, I was mind blown, and just how much you know about everything on tree stands. Like why a button here won't work, why a hole here won't work, why this has to be tested to this capacity, why this needs a hardware update, and all that stuff is.
I don't even consciously
overlooked.
think about that. It's just that when you guys start talking about that, because it's been such a long track record, that I just remembered there was a guy. He was just talking about now a lightweight stand, one of the latest climbers out, and I said, well, that was a guy out of Tennessee. He made a carbon fiber stand. The thing fell apart in the first year, and I seen it and I knew it would. But
Yeah.
so there was other guys trying to take stuff to the edge and take to the limit. But I've seen that all going up. I've seen them come and go, and I've seen good designs, bad designs, and
those are things you only get, I think, from 40 years of experience of
Yeah,
this.
oh,
I
yeah.
mean, just hitting it hard, designing
decades
products,
of
and
seeing
just,
all that, So
it's
Yeah.
it's the evolution, of the products.
Yeah, definitely. And it's cool because we talked about this a lot too once we got those stands off you guys at the Bloomington, Illinois show in, I don't even know what year it was. I was probably 14, so a long time ago. 13 or 14 probably.
Yeah, it was long.
And that's how those stands changed how my dad and I hunt and hunting mobile. And that's when things changed for us as far as almost year-to-year consistency on a good buck, you know. And
your success rates go up. You
Yeah.
put the numbers in your game now. So
yeah, like on our podcast, Working Class, Doug nicknamed me Kurt Hangenstein's Geyer because I was always the mobile guy. And now getting with this new custom gear setup, it just makes any little inconvenience before, and it was already convenient. It's the ultimate design and stands now. And people are realizing it. The more this product gets out there and more people get to handle it and feel it, and it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's an eye opener.
And a lot of guys, you know, they hear this. We're not bumbling around the woods with a bunch of equipment. We're going in stealthy. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, and
we're getting in. We're getting set up. Our equipment's together. We got our shit together. It's been all. Everything's been it's silenced down. You know, it's not like you're just wandering around aimlessly out there. You're scouting. You're hunting. And then this is a tool at the very end that you're going to use to seal that deal. So
what I've been telling a lot of people, and we talked about it too, Cody, is I view this stand setup just as important as the tool that's actually like the bow that's killing the animal. It's just as important because
you know that's funny.
It's on your back. You know, it's the tool to get you there. And if you can't get there, how are you going to kill whatever animal you're after?
Well, years ago, it's funny. We had that conversation. I told a buddy of mine, if I were to leave one thing behind, I'd leave my bow behind before I left my stand because I probably wouldn't get to where I'd need that bow if I didn't have the right equipment to get there. So
for sure.
I mean, there is a lot of truth to that because you can. I mean, I've been behind the curve in bows for my whole life, and so have you. I mean, we're shooting old technology, or you know, up until the new Lobo release, but it's not something that's a top priority, and I never seen it as a top priority because he didn't see it as a top priority. So you know, if he would have been getting new bows every year and decking them out and had the latest, I'd probably be doing the same thing, but. To that point, people see what we're shooting. I was just at the shoot, like, I mean, we're shooting target. He's like, what? He's like, you don't got a peep sight? He's like, you don't got a, what is that, one pin? Like, it's just one of those things where.
This guy's hitting targets at 60 yards with no peep on there. 15 yards for me, brother. That's
yeah, but, well, don't get me wrong. I'm not a range demon, but it's just one of those things where I just never thought about that.
Yeah.
But you go on my trailer and there's 12 setups ready to rock, like 4 of those like dive-in missions and all that kind of stuff.
I was talking about you. I'm not going to lie, after that, after the shoot. And I was like, it made it more impressive to me that you guys kill the deer you've killed year after year with your bow setups, because we had a phone conversation about, like, Cody, if you could shoot 30 yards effectively, you're like, oh, dude, I'd cut my success time down by like a third.
Yeah. It happened a lot quicker, for sure.
And that's not a bad thing because you guys are good, you guys are efficient, you guys are getting it done. But I was surprised. Okay,
I just
not to hate on you.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. Like there's times where it becomes attractive to shoot longer distances and get that and have the dial, but that fire you get being 8 yards away from what you're killing too is
bow hunting's a close game.
Yeah,
it's a close game.
There's nothing better than that. I mean,
We'll delve into that more down the road, but I'm going to tell you, I've quirked for decades trying to hug a little more, grab a little bit more distance on it, and every time I do it, high hits, one lungs, I start backing up, and at that 22 yards effective range, gain the skills to put yourself in that range. Well, the guys would see some of these videos and say, "Wow, that guy's not that great of a shot. Oh, his deer at 15 yards." Well, yeah, there's world-class deer at 15 yards that ain't got a clue you're there. And that's the game, brother, right there.
And that becomes
I can make that shot every time. Just about every time.
That becomes more.
I love that point.
More about, like you talked about, you know, and we're looking at it as hunting, not archery. We're not like you said, whatever you call them, like competition archers. We're hunting. We're not shooting. So it's.
I love that perspective though too, because that's the core of it.
Exactly. And if you can, I mean, the skill to get that close to that caliber of an animal, I mean, I'm not going to bash anything, but to get 60 yards from that caliber of an animal is pretty damn easy. Like very, very easy, you know, or a lot easier than it is to have that thing come up on a trail, 10 yards broadside, whatnot.
Yeah.
And I think control freak.
Well, and
I can have an animal like that come within range and then just turn my back on him and let him walk. That's what lights me up to worse about anything.
Well, and I love that perspective because I like archery.
It's success at that point in time.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get close to those.
That's the ball game right there. That's where you want to be. I have that perspective. Almost, I'd say 95% of my shots are under 20 yards. You know, and that's probably everyone right in the Midwest.
Unless you're out west for elk, then it's
a little further. Yep. I get a kick out of the archery part of things. Like when I practice, I'll shoot 60, 70, 80 because when I'm at 20, it just seems it's right in your face. So that's where the archer game comes in for me. But I see like Cody, your perspective on it and your thought. Like I never really thought about taking it that far. I've always just thought about, like you said, getting in. That's more
Well,
an
and-
I'll
accomplishment.
give you a good piece of advice.
Well,
Practice a 10-yard shot.
let me.
Yeah,
Well,
you know,
That's the
honestly,
one you're going to blow.
I'll tell a quick little story here. And this isn't gonna be a common occurrence where I'm giving Dad some credit here, but so I think there was one year where I started backing up, and I started and we're not talking about backing up to where guys are shooting today. I'm talking about backing up to like 30, 35 yards, like
Right.
thinking like, okay, instead of killing them at 10, I'm gonna kill them at 30 this year. And I remember I was shooting in the backyard, and I was getting really good at 30. With no peep, just how I shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And he came up and he's like, oh, he's like, kind of back here, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just shooting at 30. He's like, why are you trying? He's like, why are you trying to get out to 30? Like, you're killing deer. Essentially, like, what are you doing? Why are you changing it up? And I'm like,
Right.
well, I want to shoot farther. He's like, nah, you're gonna fuck up, and walked away. and I think it was then two.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, well, that's the kind. You'll come
Well, I
to
think
know.
I said, why aren't you practicing a couple of 10-yard shots?
No. That's. I'm
All
pretty
right.
sure it was just that, and you'll learn that. You'll learn the whole mentality of that going forward in this series. But yeah, so I pretty much thanks, Dad. Okay, thanks for that vote of confidence. So you're gonna fuck up. That's what I had to go on. Well, I mean, and I'm telling you, and then season came and I went into hunting like I always do, getting close.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like 5-6 days before I had a slammer at 6 yards. I'm talking a close shot, and I shot that fucker right in the knee. And I mean, I don't even know how it happened. And that's all I was thinking was like, that motherfucker was right. Like, so, and then since then I've just kept it at 20, and then haven't had a lot of haven't had a lot of follow-ups from them. So it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay, it's a little hesitant to do something that's different and change it up. But
I do love that. I love that whole perspective because I think a lot of guys do get tied up on the longer range. And like what I said, I like to practice that far because it seems easier of a shot. But then that's a hole in my game. What you just pointed out is I don't practice the chip shots as much as I should because 10 yards.
You're really good pool players. They don't miss the easy ones. They can make really great shots.
Yeah.
But they don't ever miss the easy ones. And what happens is when you're in a game with a buck that's bigger than you ever shot before, it's a whole different
different game.
That's true.
So that's now it's you're nervous, you're shaking, you're just like, and you're second guessing yourself. So it's more conditioning. If you should be able to condition your body to be able to shoot them 10s, those 15s all the way out.
It's repetition.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it comes down to it, it's that muscle
confidence. Too,
and muscle memory. But I think segueing from that, a good thing to look at, like you talk about success in tree stands and all this, and I think what really gave a lot of I guess validity to this stand and coming up and how it got the traction as it did, I don't think it would have if you didn't have that success linked to it. So you have decades of like just in the book proof of this type of product, this type of hunting working. I mean, you've been killing like world-class deer for so many years, and it allowed birth of these products and the success in the industry, and it's all coming full circle, which is odd, but
there's a lot of guys that I've got letters and calls from over the years that are really successful hunters now, and they wanted to thank me for making them mobile again. They got a stand, they got down, they started bouncing around, and they started killing the biggest deers of their life. Instead of just sitting there back and watching the whole thing happen, get down and go get in the game.
Yeah,
and that comes down to your far shots too, to where a lot of those people are hunting those field edges or hunting those standard areas, and if they can hit 60, they don't have to move. Oh well, that deer will probably work down this field edge eventually in a day or so, and I mean, whereas
I can tell you a little story about a 40-yard shot I made years ago with a 198 feet per second bow, a 10-inch arc at frickin' 20 yards. Standing still, released the arrow. By the time that arrow got there, that deer literally turned completely around, was quartering the opposite way, and hit him. So even with these fast bows, you think that arrow can get there?
Yeah.
That deer better be standing still the whole time.
Right.
It's just a matter of seconds. They could just be moving and
if
end up with
you're
a wounded hit.
If you're going to be a long-range shot guy, you have to be able to read deer body language well. And yeah, like you said,
And if
sometimes
they
the
even
risk
have
isn't worth
any
it.
inclination that something's coming, that arrow, they ain't going to be where that.
Yeah, a deer will
Yeah.
duck an arrow,
Yeah.
full blown.
Well, I've happened.
I've tried to get a shot off at 16 yards and had a deer duck there. I mean, like they're freaking quick. They'll drop.
For
They'll
sure.
drop on a dime.
Man, this is crazy. The first podcast, we covered a lot. One thing, and I'll let you decide here where, if we want to go, how much detail you want to go in. I feel like it's worth explaining custom gear, Lone Wolf portable tree stands since '84, that whole thing. I feel like we need to set the record straight a little bit there and kind of just lay out like the relation and if there's any confusion and all that, because it's a common question for us just when you've been on Working Class Bowhunter and hanging out with you and having people around. So I figured that's worth the explanation, and I'll let you guys break her down however you want.
Well, I would just put it this way, that I am the sole owner of the brand name Lone Wolf. Anybody using it in the hunting industry or clothing industry is a licensee of mine.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the, kids are at the age now, I'm getting a little older, they want to continue this legacy. And this custom gear idea was to have them a platform or a company to take on for the next generation. So that's actually a licensed company from the brand name, and they will take it to probably some new levels,
Yeah,
in
for sure.
the near future. So
What's up, Cody? Got anything to say?
yeah, I want to be on the sidelines watching a lot of this down the road.
Right.
So,
It's going to be cool to see what happens with it, especially because you are the lone wolf, and see, I guess.
yeah, there's a new lone wolf in town. And
yeah.
What's funny about it, watching him, it's like looking at me back in my prime, and it's like, how do I keep up with that? Because that was
right.
So it's really rewarding to watch the whole generation. My kids love the sport, and and it's exciting to see this new endeavor. So.
Yeah, I think I know I've touched on it a little bit in the past and the timeline, and but I mean a very very quick, just sort of expanded view. I mean, is the tree stand company was founded as the Lone Wolf portable tree stands, long ago in the early '80s, and as we kind of touched, and it was Dad's baby. I mean, it was the garage in the backyard, and I mean, we didn't have a jungle gym to play on. We played on pallets of tree stands. Like that's
every kid's got a scar on his head.
And we all do have scars from those tree stands. So it's something that's dear to me. It's something that for as long as I can remember, Lone Wolf was a thing. Dad deer hunting was a thing. It was just I thought that was what I thought that was it. That was it. It was.
Well, look at the brand. So just to look at the brand name, Lone Wolf. So your bow hunter's typically a loner. He goes out, he hunts himself. I know there's guys that do hunt him in a pack, and your gun hunters were your pack hunters.
Yeah.
And the old tagline we had, your silent partner, would you tell all your buddies years ago where the hell you're hunting a big day and they're going to screw it up? So your silent partner was your stand.
Yeah.
You were the lone wolf, and, we were hunting together, but you get this section of woods.
Yeah.
Stay out of mine. I'm taking this section, and you go do your own deal. And then you come back afterwards, camp, and you talk about what you didn't see, and you lie about what,
Right. Lie a little bit.
But that's where a lot of that branding came from.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now transitioning from that, and you have the build up and the birth of this company, and then the decades that it took off and started booming, and all these big whitetails that were killed by Dad, and really solidifying the validating the brand and all that. Now you come to this impasse of a custom gear. So, we've taken those designs, customized them. People are wanting to mess with their things a little bit more. We're branching into more customization options, like even with the new Lobo and the cameras and the concealment skins, and you can mount the camera with paracord and straps, and you can do it different ways, and it's allowing the user to kind of get a little bit more.
I know the excitement of that because I did that years ago, and the new generation, that's what we're leaving it open so you guys can modify, take it to the next, make it your own,
Yep. Yeah, so I guess, in a nutshell, I mean, we're excited to be doing custom gear, and it's been awesome coming up young, doing design work for other tree stand companies, and just, like I said, this is all I've known. Who'd
ever thought that, huh? You're a plumber, your kid becomes a plumber. You're a tree stand designer,
Yeah.
your kid becomes a tree stand designer. That's kind of crazy
It's
stuff.
funny the way
isn't
it works out, isn't it?
So,
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so it's exciting.
Well, episode 1, what do you think? I appreciate you guys letting me be a part of this.
Oh man, we
man,
appreciate it. You know, when it, we started talking about it, and we've talked a couple times. You know, after being on the podcast and the platform and what you're doing, man, at Working Class, and we appreciate you helping us out and all this.
Yeah, for sure.
The collaboration, man.
It's gonna be good. It's time to tip some shit over.
yeah,
You know what?
I'm ready.
Episode 1. That's it. We'll close her out there.
It's a wrap.
Thanks for viewing. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, appreciate it.